Welcome back everybody, Kaiser here. Today we're going to be talking about the variable action hero post-time skip Roronoa Zoro by MegaHouse. When it comes to the box size, on average MegaHouse boxes are much taller than all of the other companies like Figuarts and Figma. With that being said, normally the boxes are like this. They're really open at the front where you can see the figure that you're buying, how this looks and everything. It has a picture of the character right here at the front, along with his name right here at the bottom saying Roronoa Zoro. For those of you that don't know, this figure was made in 2015. I think I have this figure for about 8 years in total, which is completely crazy. It has been in the box for a really long time. I took it out one time and then I posed it. I don't really remember how the articulation is for that matter. It has been so long since I took it out of the box. Hopefully everything is in there and all of the parts are there as well. But continuing with the box, you can see the One Piece logo right here at the top. On the side, you see a pose with the name Variable Action Heroes and his name right here. On the back, it shows different poses, the different face plates that they offer, and the different swords right here. And on the side, there are 2 more poses with a zoom-in picture of his face. With that being said, variable action hero boxes are mostly really nice looking. Like I said, the poses of the characters and even the back, which looks like a treasure map, it's really nice, and I really always like them. But the problem with them, as you all probably know, variable action heroes are really expensive. They're even more expensive than Figma on average, but I will show you guys why once we jump into the articulation and the aesthetics of the figure. So really quickly, for those of you that enjoy keeping the boxes or displaying the boxes, here's how it looks without the figure inside of it. It has a really cool picture of Zoro's Jolly Roger logo, which is awesome on the background, but unfortunately the background is blue instead of green for some reason. I don't know why, but they did it that way. And here's how it looks box-wise in comparison to a Figuarts box. Here's a Figuarts Zoro, and here's how the variable action hero looks in comparison. It's much taller, and it's also much thicker. When it comes to the side, is about twice the size of the variable action hero boxes. So before talking about the figure overall look, I have to mention a little bit more information about MegaHouse. So for those of you that don't know, MegaHouse is very similar to Kotobukiya in a way that they are very well known for their statues. More specifically, their portrait of pirates, which is a one-piece line. It's very well known. They make scale figures. They all look very detailed and very amazing. But variable action heroes is kind of like their sideline, which they make articulated figures. But I like to say they're not well known for those things. They're more well known for their statues. So throughout this whole review, I would like you guys to remember that this figure was made in 2015. So if you feel like some details are missing, or if the structure of the figure is a little bit weird, don't worry. This is probably the reason why. If you guys remember, Figuarts, the first line of DBZ figures, had a couple of hiccups that they changed with the years to come. And I'm pretty sure Variable Action Heroes went the same route. So once again, this figure was made in 2015, and I would like you guys to know that. But before we even continue talking about how it looks and so on and so forth, I brought the Figuarts Zoro to compare it to you guys. And here it is. And as I mentioned, since MegaHouse is known for making statues, their line of figures, the variable action heroes, don't follow the normal 6-inch scale for figures like Figuarts and Figma does. So most of their figures are not going to be in line with most of the figures that you have around the house. They're going to be off-sized. So variable action heroes need to be kind of staying in the same lane as other variable action heroes. So with that being said, I'll also want to talk about the faceplates and let you guys think about what you decide and what you think is better. If you think the Figuarts is better, or if you think the variable action hero is better. I personally, the only one thing I enjoy about this Zoro figure right here is how the design looks and how the faceplate looks. It looks much better than the variable action hero one, but once again, this was made in 2015. But other than that, the color of the hair is different. This is more of like a aqua green, which I don't think that's normally how Zoro's hair color would look like. But, you know, I'm not that picky about it. It still resembles the character very well. So, taking this to the side, we can talk more about the figure now and how it looks. And as previously mentioned, since they are a statue company, MegaHouse is very, very, very good at making details on these figures. So the muscle structure, you can see the muscle details, plus even some veins. You can see how well the scar is detailed right here. You can see the 3 earrings. You can see the scar on his face. The belt looks great with the cloth coming out of it. You can see the flowing jacket piece of his kimono. Look at the muscle detail on the back. It looks like a Baki figure of how detailed the back muscles are and how defined they are. And also the flowiness of his skirt piece and all of the sculpture detail. It makes it really seem like this is cloth, even though it's such an old figure. And also the legs and the boots, they have detail as well to make it seem like it's cloth. And I think that's a really nice detail. As I mentioned, this peg right here is to put the scabbards for the swords. I didn't put it on yet because I'll show you during the accessories. But overall, I think the figure looks really nice for the time period that it came in. It really resembles Zoro for that matter. And I think, like I said, and I mentioned, the details, the structure, and then also the overall ratio of his chest, how long his arms are, his head, and the rest of his body, it all looks great. It's almost as if he came off of the anime at that specific time, which it was just once the Straw Hats were coming into the post time skip. So you can blame the lack of detail into that, as most details were shown through Wano. So in comparison to the Figuarts figure, the MegaHouse does not have any issues with posing, as far as I can remember. And then as I'm going to play with it in front of the camera, you guys will be able to see it as well. And one thing I forgot during the aesthetic portion of it, this figure has a problem. It's always kind of slouching like this. There's nothing you can do to like raise the back so it doesn't slouch. Given the structure, it's always in a slouch kind of position for his back. I don't personally think it's a problem, since you're mostly going to pose him in a action pose, I assume. But otherwise, I just wanted to point that out. But when it comes to the articulation, he has full range of motion on his neck. You're not going to have any problem making him look any way you want him to look. He can do a full 360. He can look up, about this far, and he can look down about this far right here. If you use the ab crunch, he can look about all the way down right about here. And if you use the ab crunch backwards, it doesn't go that far back, as I mentioned, but he can look about, straighten his leg, about this far up, which is not personally that bad, but it could be much, much better. Side body rotation, he has about this much, and you will feel like forcing it, so that's about as far as he goes. When it comes to the arm, it goes up about this much. It goes forward, no problem. Oh, let me flip the joint. It goes forward without a problem. If you use the butterfly joint, which I'll show you soon, you can make him hold the sword with 2 hands without a problem as well. And the butterfly joints on this figure are these 2 pieces right here, which kind of connect with the back muscle, and it makes it seem really awesome for that matter. But if you open too much, you can see a gap in, but from the front, you won't see it at all. And then that's for both sides. You can see a gap in right here, and you can see a gap in right here as well. But when you put the shoulder back, the gapping is completely, the gapping is completely nullified on both sides. And it kind of caves into the back muscle, and it doesn't lose the structure of how back muscle should look like. Well, I don't know much anatomy, but I feel like back muscle should look like this if the person is really muscly. I think it looks aesthetically pleasing, at least to me. In addition, he has a bicep swivel, and he has double jointed range. This is how his elbow looks. It could be better, but it's not that bad looking. When it comes to the wrist, you can do a full 360, and you can do the standard ball joint up, down, at an angle and everything. So that's it for the top part of his body. And like if you remember with the Figuarts, the skirt, these pieces right here are kind of hard. I won't lie, but the way they did it, it doesn't hinder the bottom part of his articulation at all, because you can just lift this part up and you can lift this part out of the way, showing the legs fully. He can kick up, excuse me, about this far, which I think is enough. He has double jointed range for his leg. And he can also, if I'm not mistaken, he can do the splits fairly well on both sides. Yep, Zoro can do the splits. Imagine if the Figuarts, a figure that came out literally last year, could have, how could you imagine that a figure from literally last year have worse articulation than a figure from 10 years ago? I wouldn't know. He also has a tie swivel. He has a boot swivel, I think. Does it? No, he doesn't. I thought he did. But you can swivel on the ankle. The pivot is there, but it's very light. And he has an ankle rocker, which is very minimal, I would say, but it does the job. And he has a toe hinge. Like I said, he doesn't go that far up, but he does the job. He stands up fairly decently, and you can put him in any kind of pose you want him to be in. So when it comes to the accessory, I would say it's very similar to that of the Figuarts. In some areas, it exceeds it, and while some areas is a little lacking, and I'll get into that. But otherwise, the accessories are very much what you need to put him in any pose that you kind of want to. So starting, he has 3 pair of hands, which is not a lot nowadays. He has this closed hand, fist hand right here. He has this open palm hand, and he has the sword holding hand. And that's about it for the hands. And when it comes to the face, he has 4 of them, and it's not really a faceplate change, but instead is a whole headpiece change. So he has this stern, neutral looking face that he always has. He has also this face right here with the mouth open, which is used to hold the sword in case you don't want to put the bandana on. And he also has the bandana stern look face, which is basically very similar to this one right here, but just with the bandana. And then just like the other headpiece, he also has the mouth open with the bandana. Like I said, he doesn't have much other faceplates in relation to this. Is either a stern look or with the sword in his mouth, which if you like more expressive characters, this won't give you much of an option. But if you want to pose them, as I said, with more action poses, this faces would work perfectly fine. Well, not faces, head. So moving on, in case you're using the faceplate, I'm gonna keep saying faceplate. In case you keep using the head with the bandana, he also comes with this on, which is the arm piece. In case you want to switch, excuse me, the bicep with the bandana. So for example, right now, since he doesn't have the bandana on, the bandana should be on his arm. But since I don't want to have to worry about removing and putting it on, I just keep to the side, because most of the times I'm gonna put him with the bandana on anyway. But for situations like this where he doesn't have the bandana, you would plug this in. And then if you use the bandana on his head, you just remove that and just keep it like it is. Now, what is Zoro without his swords? And here it is, the scabbards with his 3 swords, and different from, let me pick it up right here, different from the Figuarts one, which is right here. Zoro has a different sword. He has Shusui instead of Enma. But all of his other swords are basically the same. And I think one interesting fact of it, if you see the sheath of the Sandai Kitetsu, is different between this one and the Figuarts one. So I just want to point that out. The Ichimonji one is basically the same. Let me put it back. And then, as you can see, it's missing the hilts because the hilts come separately. And then you can just plug it in like so. I think it's backwards. No, I was doing it right. So you can just plug it in. Better than I did, but you can just plug it in and you can remove it. This is for the Shusui, and this is for the Sandai Kitetsu. So now for the swords themselves, here is Wado Ichimonji and how it looks. And let me pick it up with the Figuarts Zoro, so I just have a better comparison. Here it is. There's not that much of a definition between the edge of the sword and the body of the sword, like the Figuarts does. So in this department, the Figuarts, I would say, has better detail, if you will. Here is Shusui. Shusui is much better, in my opinion. And then here is Emma in comparison. No, this is not Emma. Excuse me. This is the Sandai Kitetsu. And this is Emma in comparison. So both edges are basically the same, but the Shusui is more purplish, while the Emma is more on the greenish side. The only difference is mainly the hilts. So now finally we have the Sandai Kitetsu, and this is how it compares. So this is the Figuarts, and this is the variable action here. So once again, the colors are fairly different. The design is similar, but the color that they chose is different. So for the Figuarts, it's more on the dark blue side, and then on the variable action hero is more on the light blue side, both for the hilt and for the sword edge. So with that, that's all the accessories they come with. I'm going to put him in a pose. Him right here, Sir Zoro. I'm going to put him in a pose. And then I'll come back with my final thoughts on the figure and if you should get it. So for my final remarks, guys, as you can see, I don't have to say much. This figure looks amazing in an action pose, just like the name of the line says, variable action hero. It should be put in an action pose. It does any of Zoro's major attacks without a problem. As you can see in the box, it does the Onigiri, no problem. It does the Phoenix Cannon without a problem. And it does the 3000 Worlds without a problem, just like I put it in a pose right here. I purposely put it into a different pose so you can see that it does any other pose that you can think of without a problem. There are some hiccups with the figure. For example, the mouthpiece that holds the Wado Ichimonji is not really that secure. So I recommend putting that sword, the sword in his mouth, for last because he always keeps on falling. Also, reverse gripping with the sword like I'm doing right there. The sword tends to fall apart, so I'm using the hilt of the Shusui to hold on to the sword from falling out. But you can put it in a pose without a problem. The legs are spread up apart. As you can see, no problem with the skirt holding it back. This is how the scabbards look. And this is how it is, with the arms stretched out. And that's the good thing about the figure having such long arms, is that the poses don't hinder. So the sword doesn't, the sword on his mouth doesn't get obstructed by the arms, and so on and so forth. Overall, the figure just flows really well. In comparison to the Figuarts, which is unfun to pose, this figure from 10 years ago does the job, and does the job extremely well. I really wanted to get my hands on the Onigashima one, but I wasn't able to get it when it was on pre-order. I was still trying to pick it up because I think that one would have every other major change along the years because it was released fairly recent. So when it comes to buying this figure, I think you can get it on eBay for about like $100 pre-owned, hopefully. I also believe that there was a re-release of this figure alongside the Mihawk and alongside the Luffy and alongside the Sanji. So they were re-released. I don't know if anything came with the re-release. I think maybe like one of the face, like the face design has changed from what I've heard, but I might be wrong. This figure is the old version, so it has all the older flaws. So if you try to get it, try to get the new one. You might be able to find it if you have some luck on Mandarake or Amy. If you want to get like the foreigner version, I'm not sure if they have it on Amazon, but if you do, you can get it on Amazon. I got this one of mine from an anime shop around here where I live, like I said, 8 years ago. So the legs on mine are a little bit on the flimsy side, like if I shake left and right, but it's just age and how I handled the figure back in the day. I don't handle my figures as bad as I did back in the day. Right now I handle it with more care since I know how much it's worth and so on and so forth. But yeah, I also bought the Mihawk, and that's what I think my next review is gonna be. It's gonna be right here, the Mihawk, so I can put next to the Zoro, so you guys can take a look at it and maybe dream about having this fight right here that we don't see since One Piece aired on the 34th episode or on the 24th. I don't know which one specifically. But if you can get your hands on this, it's much better than the Figuarts. But unfortunately for you to try to get the whole line of figures, because once again, since they're out of scale with the Figuarts, it won't look good next to the other figures. So you either get all the variable action figures, or you do like I do. I pick up my favorite character, so basically I pick up Zoro, and now I have the Mihawk. And then that's it for me. I won't pick any other of the variable action heroes. Maybe I was thinking about getting, if I could get my hands on the Ace, the Sabo, and the Luffy, so I can do the brother group. But I'm pretty fine, and I'm pretty well off with Mihawk and Zoro. As I said, I'm gonna put them in a cool pose, and that's it, because I don't know when or if ever Figuarts are gonna release a Mihawk. And yeah. So if you get your hands on this, I'm pretty sure you're going to love it. Like I said, the articulation is amazing. You won't have any problems. And if I were to recommend this, I'll recommend this to everybody, actually. If you like swordsmen, they look great. If you love One Piece, of course, just get it. If you love Zoro, even more so. And then if you're lucky, you can get the Onigashima version, you can get the post-time skip, and you can get the pre-time skip. So you can have all versions of Zoro. But good luck with that. But other than that, Kaiser signing out. I hope you enjoyed the review, and look out for the Mihawk one. That one is coming as well. Peace.